Hey y'all, it's Mary Hyatt, and I'm so excited you're here for this month's topic, which is all about manifestation. This month, we're going to get into the nitty gritty on how to create what you want in your life, your business, and your relationships. Because we're not just going to arrive at where you want to go by default, it has to be by design. Now, I cannot wait to show you how to become a powerful manifester because this is seriously one of my favorite topics to talk about. So stay right here and let's hop into it.
Welcome to the Living Fully Alive podcast with Mary Hyatt, here to help you find your authentic voice, learn how to love yourself, and embrace your life. And now, your host, life and mindset coach, body love advocate, and doTERRA Presidential Diamond, Mary Hyatt.
Hey everybody, it is Mary, and I am so excited because today is the fourth and final episode in this month's theme centered all around manifestation. And gosh, we've just had some amazing episodes this month. The first episode, when I was solo, I talked about what manifestation is, kind of the foundation 101 basics of it, define what it is. And we looked at my 5-step process to manifestation. And then I had Jen Mazer on, who is the queen of manifestation. She wrote the book, Manifestation Made Easy. And that was such a powerful conversation just to see how we can manifest in bigger and bigger ways. Just a cool conversation to hear her story. And then last week, I brought on my assistant, Liz, and we talked about kind of this intersection between privilege and our ability to manifest. We sort of got into some of those harder, tougher questions, and we looked at what does it look like to be a person who is helping to co-create in the universe for other people. Like, what does it look like to be the answer to someone's manifestation prayer? And I just really loved that conversation with Liz. So if you haven't listened to the other 3 episodes in the manifestation series this month, go back and listen to them because I think they're really just helpful for the conversation that we're going to be having today. And I know that so many of you participated in the 8-day manifestation meditation challenge, which was, oh my God, like so freaking powerful. And I'm about to let you in. If you didn't get in on that 8-day meditation challenge, don't worry. I'm about to let you into that for good. So if you missed it, I'll be sharing the link soon. But the question is now, where do we go from here? How do I become a consistently powerful manifester? What's next? What does it look like to actually put this stuff into practice regularly and not just kind of get it as a theory, but what does it look like to live a life where I am consciously manifesting all the time? So I want to break this down a little more clearly in a way that is maybe not so woo-woo. Y'all know I love the woo-woo, but I want to make it a little bit more practical for the people that need sort of the logical path forward, okay? So let's look at how manifestation works. And I want to use an acronym. And I can't remember exactly where I found this, but it's sort of like if you're in the mindset self-development world, you may have heard this before. And it's an acronym called BEAR, BEAR. And it stands for beliefs, the B, E, emotions, A, actions, R, results. And this is a model to me of manifestation. How do we get the results? If that's kind of the last step of this acronym, how do we get the results that we want in our lives? And it starts with beliefs, and these beliefs that we have. So it's sort of like no matter what is happening in our life, like whatever you're going through right now, you have a certain belief about that thing. You have thoughts about it. You have a sentence in your head that attaches meaning to it, attaches an interpretation of what's happening. Like I always think if let's say, we'll take COVID, okay? This is like a circumstantial thing that's happening to all of us universally. We're all kind of in the same boat. Even if the same thing, like if you're in the house with somebody else, your spouse, a child, whatever, and you're going through what looks like the same external experience, you are going to have different experiences of that based on the beliefs that you have. So if I believe, for example, that there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to get through COVID without losing my mind, or if I believe that this is an opportunity for growth and for deep healing for myself and for our whole planet, you can imagine that the experience of the lockdown or of COVID is going to be really different based on the beliefs that I have about what's happening. So that's where we start. It's sort of like, okay, how am I thinking about this neutral circumstance? Am I thinking this is positive? Am I thinking this is negative? Is this easy? Is this hard? And then we bring in sort of this, maybe some of these deeper beliefs around, man, life is always hard for me, or the universe is always conspiring for my good. Those are two separate beliefs. And depending on which we choose to go into and adopt and integrate into our whole being, our result, our life is going to be really different. So the B is where we start, the beliefs. And based on how we're thinking about something, the beliefs that we have surrounding an event that's happening, each of those beliefs, each of those thoughts generate an emotional response from us. So for example, if we go back to that COVID example and we look at, okay, this is going to be really hard. There's no way I'm not going to lose my mind. Or even another belief we could look at is, oh my gosh, we're all going to die, right? That's a belief. That's a thought. That's an interpretation of what's happening. Imagine the kind of emotion that thought creates and generates. It's going to be like super charged with fear and anxiety and stress, worry, overwhelm. Whereas if I am thinking that this experience is helping me evolve as a human and for us to evolve as a human race, then that's going to generate the emotion of perhaps peace, perhaps serenity, perhaps, it could even have some joy attached to that or gratitude. So depending on our belief system and the thoughts that we're thinking, it's going to generate an emotion. It's going to create an emotional response from us. And then based out of that emotional response, it's going to cause us to take action or inaction. So that's where the A comes in that BEAR acronym. The A is for actions. It causes a behavioral response. So if I'm feeling like stressed and fearful and panicked, you can imagine that the action, the behavior that comes from that is I'm running to the grocery store, I'm buying all this toilet paper, I'm stocking up on essentials, I'm scrolling through news like crazy, looking for some security and some certainty. I am in a place where I'm locking down and not willing to see anyone. And I'm not saying any of these are good or bad, right? I'm just kind of like painting the picture to demonstrate there's a response to the emotions that we're feeling. There's an action that follows it. Whereas if I'm kind of going, okay, this is part of what we need to do in order to become better human beings and a better planet. We're upgrading. This is an opportunity here for me to grow. And that makes me feel more serene and peaceful. Then, so maybe some of the actions are, I'm going to use this time to do some deep healing work. I'm going to read a book that I haven't had time to read. I'm going to take up a hobby that I've been really wanting to explore. And all of a sudden you can see the trajectory based on these actions is going to bring us to that R, that results. It's going to give us an outcome based on the actions that we've taken because of how we've felt that have been generated by how we're thinking and the beliefs that we have. So anything in our life that we look at as a result, the money in our bank account, the house we live in, the car that we drive, the relationship that we're in, our friendships, our success or struggle of our business, if we really look at the results, we can trace them all the way back to a belief, a thought, an interpretation of something. And so this is a really fun model, and it's really the basis of any kind of coaching that I do with my one-on-one clients. This is foundational to the work that I do with my one-on-one clients. This is sort of the framework for how do you get a different result? Okay, we work on our thoughts, we work on our beliefs, we generate different emotions, we take new behavioral actions, create new habits, and change it up. But what's interesting is that so often we think that we are just responding sort of in a vacuum to what's happening right now without realizing that we created the sequence in the first place. It's sort of like, oh, well, this happened to me. I'm just responding to it. But the truth is our external life is a mirror of our own internal beliefs and thoughts. We think our life is being created from the outside in, like we're just kind of handling whatever's being thrown at us. But in reality, it's actually moving from the inside out. So there's this book that I've been reading as I've been diving deeper into manifestation. It's a new book that I haven't read before, and it's called Infinite Possibilities. It's from a guy named Mike Dooley. And in that book, he says, our actions are our beliefs in motion. Our actions mirror our beliefs. So if we're going to shift anything in our lives, we will at some point have to address that B. We're going to have to look at our beliefs. We're going to have to look at which of those beliefs are holding us back. How are they limiting us in what's possible and what we want to create? How are they in opposition to where we are trying to go? And so in order to really manifest, we're going to have to start with those beliefs. What do we think is possible? What limits have we placed on ourselves? What limits have we placed on the world or other people or God? Where is this disconnect? And I love kind of getting into this. And even when, this is kind of interesting to note that even though B is the beginning of the acronym, sometimes that can feel tricky to start there. Like sometimes trying to pinpoint what the belief breakdown is comes up with this just like big question mark. We can't quite get there. It feels too elusive. It feels like I don't really know how to identify what is limiting me and how I'm thinking, how I'm believing. But I know that it must be something because I'm not getting the results that I want. I'm saying I'm wanting one thing and it's never quite happening. So there's got to be a gap there somewhere, but I can't quite get my hands around it. I can't quite identify it. And this is where, of course, I'm like, hire a coach, this is why I love working one-on-one, because there's something so magical about being able to sit with somebody who can see in a way that you haven't been able to see, who has different lenses, different perspective, different eyes on the situation. And that's one of the greatest benefits of a coach. But if you're doing this work by yourself and that feels like I just don't really know how to do this, we can skip to the actions. So this BEAR, B-E-A-R acronym isn't linear. It's linear in that, our beliefs create the results, but we can enter into this model at any stage of the process and reverse engineer it. So that's the good news. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because it's possible that by changing our actions, that those actions actually change our beliefs. So because it's not a total linear process, by starting with our actions, we can reverse engineer the scale. And when we start acting in new ways that feel more aligned with our future self, so if we start having new behaviors, we start doing things differently as though we were our future self, it begins to shift our belief. And so I want to really tap into this idea of new action. New action is the key, meaning different action, different than the same old repeat Groundhog's Day action that we've been doing for years and years and years. When you think about your day and what you do, it's relatively the same. You wake up, you literally do the same thing over and over again. You check your phone, you go to the bathroom, you brush your teeth, and you do that all in that same order. You go and open the blinds, you make your coffee. It's almost unconscious at this point. And so if we stay in those habitual routines and behaviors, obviously we're going to create the same result over and over again. So I want to be talking about What does it look like to take new action? Because as the old saying goes, if you do what you have always done, you'll get what you've always got. So this is where we get to begin acting outside of our norm to create new results. This new way of being can by itself begin to recorrect your old limiting beliefs. This by itself is really powerful, which is so cool. And as Mike Dooley says, he says, to put it plainly, you can decide in a flash to turn left instead of right or laugh instead of cry. And on a bigger scale, you can decide to behave as if some or all of your dreams have already manifested. These kinds of actions send a signal to your inner witness that tells it that your reality is no longer what it used to be. And by repeatedly catching your inner witness off guard, it'll find that it can no longer slumber through predictable routine patterns it's become accustomed to, nor can it count on the old beliefs relied upon to form its reality. When you act in new ways, anticipation of the unexpected is aroused, and previously closed doors to fulfillment begin swinging open. Yes, please. Like this new action leads to a new result that then gives you this external proof needed to sustain a new subconscious belief. So what does that new action look like? And even beyond that, what does it look like to be in new aligned action? Hey y'all, I'm sure you've been hearing me mention my Fully Alive Circle membership, and you might be wondering what it is and how you can join. So let me tell you a little bit about it. So the Circle membership is a safe place for women to gather together in a heart-centered community to take this deep dive into personal transformation. So it's my online membership where you'll learn how to find yourself again through daily devotional practices. Inside of our private Facebook group, I share resources like guided meditations, yoga practices, essential oil recipes, journal prompts, and so much more that dive into our monthly topic that we explore right here on the Living Fully Alive podcast. And all those resources are delivered to your inbox weekly to help you create powerful change in your life. So if you're looking for an affordable way to continue your journey of living fully alive, then definitely check out the Fully Alive Circle membership. Just go to maryhyatt.com/circle and you can find out all the details and join. All right, now back to this week's episode. Now, I'm going to take you kind of through two different approaches of defining this new aligned action. But before we hop into both of those, I want to emphasize the aligned part. So yesterday on my Fully Alive Circle membership live Q&A call that we do every month, where we kind of have everybody inside of the membership come in and ask their questions around the topic of the month, we started talking about alignment as it related to manifestation. And the reason that I put this qualifier on there is because aligned action is different than just action. So I was explaining to all the members inside of the Q&A, I was like, alignment means that I'm not just like hustling for no reason or being in this perpetual state of doing. Like I'm not just taking sort of like just any kind of action. Alignment means I am checking in with my higher power and aligning to source. This is where instead of feeling like we're just moving from left to right on a straight continuum, like I'm going to just keep plodding along on the path and get to the achievement, to the destination, to the goal. Instead of kind of going left to right towards this desired result, first I got to go up. Like I've got to take my energy and directly connect to source and listen with my intuition. Like I have to take inspired action. It's not moving and getting momentum just for the sake of it. It's a momentum forward connected to our greater purpose, to what is the highest and best of us and everyone involved. It's informed action. So when we're aligned and in sync with spirit, like aligned with source, connected to our higher self, we're going to be having to go up first. We're going to have to check in, tune in, slow down and listen and ask for that next right step. Ask for guidance. Ask for a clear path. Ask for direction and then move. And this is sort of that, like we've talked about it in many episodes, but the first episode, and then I talked a lot about it last week with Liz, this is sort of that co-creation part. Like I am co-creating with God, with the universe, however you want to phrase that, with your certain belief, source, whatever energy. Like I am co-creating. And so when we kind of take it to the next step further, when I'm in like total alignment and I'm taking aligned action, it means that my subconscious beliefs are going to match the external actions. Like those have got to be synced up. The belief has to be in alignment with what you want and the desire that you're manifesting. Like if the belief isn't there, and that's why the acronym, we got to go back to the bear. But if the belief isn't there, if I am doing all this action, but I don't believe it's possible, or I don't think it's going to happen, or I believe I'm going to fail, then that creates interference. It's like we say we want something, but the action and the behavior doesn't mirror that. Like, have you ever seen this in yourself? Like you say you want something, but for some reason you find yourself continually self-sabotaging, or you find yourself like, oh my God, I'm so stuck. Or sometimes, and I've seen this with myself and in my clients, it's like you do the opposite of what you want. This kind of shows you that there's an incongruent belief to what you're trying to manifest. So alignment is about matching your beliefs and your desires where there's no interference, there's no static, you're in alignment and you're going up to get what you need before you take that action. So now that you understand alignment a little bit better, now let's talk about those two different approaches when we're defining aligned action. I want to make it practical so you go, okay, here's what I actually need to do. Here's my roadmap forward. Here's the plan. If I'm going to manifest, here's where we're going to go. So the first approach is where we go, okay, what is the daily consistent behavior that I need to be practicing? Like what's the practical, the external piece of the puzzle here? And to me, we want to be looking at 3 different areas in this first approach. The first is we got to watch our language. So if we're going to look at this daily consistent behavior, part of this is catching what's coming out of our mouth, because our words are creative agents. And I always like tell my clients, I'm like, okay, here's the words you want to eliminate from your vocabulary. You want to eliminate words like never, can't, should, have to, and sort of recognize when your words limit possibility. So again, if we're kind of like thinking about, okay, aligned action, it's like everything that I want to say is, I want it to be in alignment with where I'm headed. So if I want to make more money or be successful at a different level in my job, I got to watch how I'm talking about my own capability to do that, what I believe is possible about getting money, receiving money, making money, attracting money. Like if I keep saying out loud, like I'm never going to get there, or so-and-so always gets there faster than me, or gets promoted before me, or I'll never have the opportunity to do XYZ, well, we're just like shooting ourselves in the foot. So when we define ourselves in a limited way, or define life in a limited way, or when we use language that's like victim language and just kind of catch yourself and just go, oh, I wonder how often I'm saying like story of my life. Like, here we go again. Life's always hard for me. I'm not management material. I'll never figure it out. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the right education or experience. If I open my mouth, I'm going to say something stupid. I'm just not a good speaker. I don't know how to do sales. It doesn't matter what I do. Nothing ever works out for me. We got to watch our language. So that's like a daily consistent sort of awareness component that I'm on the lookout for. Are my words congruent with where I'm trying to head? Am I in alignment verbally with the future self and where I am moving towards? So that's kind of the first piece of this. The second is that we want to daily, multiple times a day, if possible, affirm our new reality and identity. And this is through the use of positive affirmations. Y'all know affirmations. And affirmations really aren't just enough by themselves. And that's why we'll talk about in our second approach what we've got to do beyond just the affirmations, but they are really important because, again, if we're going to sync up our language and stop using sort of this victim language, now we've got to affirm our new reality and identity. I am worthy of love and joy and success. I am smart. I make wise choices. I am lovable. I can create anything that I want. I'm able to solve any problem that comes along my way. The universe is rigged in my favor. Like, I can handle anything that life throws at me. I can do hard things. I have all the energy that I need to do anything that I want to do. I am a magnet to opportunity. I am a magnet to money. And so if we think about where we're going to end up, this result that we're trying to create, it's like, what would have to be true about who I am, about my identity, about life itself, about the support that I would have from the universe, from God, from other people? What would I have to believe that would sync up on my behalf and start saying those things out loud verbally as though they were true? I want to affirm this future state. I want to affirm who I am in this new identity, someone who is literally a magnet for all good things. Like, I say that to myself every day. I am a magnet to opportunity. I am a magnet to money. Like, every good thing flows easily and effortlessly to me. Like, I want to affirm that in my life, because oftentimes we're affirming things we don't even know that are negative. And I want to use my conscious intention, and this is part of our daily actionable things that we're doing, to affirm the things that I want to be true. And maybe they're not true yet. I mean, that's kind of the, part of it. It's like, but we're doing this work in advance. We're going ahead of ourselves. So that brings us to the third area we want to focus on when we're looking at these areas that are daily practices, and that is acting as if. And this is a fun one for me to talk about. I really enjoy talking about this because this is where we get to introduce pretending into the mix. And this is one of those things that is almost like it feels kind of silly or stupid or awkward when we're doing it, but oh my God, this is powerful. Okay. So hang with me because I'm going to explain what this means. So everything that we want has a set of behaviors to it. So for example, like if you're a marathon runner, you're going to set aside time for your runs every week. You train, you track, you run. It's that simple. Marathon runners run. Or another example, if someone is happy and fulfilled in their relationship, they have a recipe for that. Like they create space for date nights. They maybe see a counselor. They create moments of intimacy. They listen. They're invested. They're complimentary. They're grateful. They have, they work on their communication skills. Like there's a recipe to a happy and fulfilled relationship. So acting as if means doing those actions ahead of time, before you've got the result catching up with you. So I'll give you kind of like a real life example of my own life. So I remember, and y'all know in my story, I lived in a lot larger body. So I was like 80 pounds or so heavier than I am now. And although with COVID-19, let's be honest, it's probably like 60. But I remember, so when I was in that larger body, I remember that part of my journey into body love and body acceptance was that in that larger body, I wanted to manifest more body confidence. Like I wanted to feel good in my skin. I didn't want to wait until I was a smaller size or had lost weight or any of that. I was like, no, like I may be in this body for the rest of my life. So how can I feel confident now? And this was hard for me. Like for years, I had hated my body. I had avoided full-length mirrors. I hated shopping. I wore big baggy clothes. I hid. I said no to pool parties. Like I was at war with my body. And so my actions were the actions of somebody who was insecure and hated her body. And those actions, if I kept doing those actions, the actions of an insecure person weren't going to help make me feel any more confident. And so when we look at, okay, we go into the actionable piece, my behaviors had to start shifting. And so I can remember really clearly, I was at the time in a department store picking out a formal gown for a doTERRA gala. Now, mind you, this was like the worst nightmare at the time, to have to like find a dress that looked good, that I was going to be seen in with like so hundreds and thousands of other people and get my picture taken. It was like, like literally worst nightmare. But I knew that, okay, if I could choose, I really wanted to go into this event feeling confident. And so I asked myself a really incredibly powerful question. I asked myself, if I did feel confident, what would I choose to try on? If I did feel confident, what would I wear? If I did feel confident, how would I stand in my body? And in that moment, it shifted. I was suddenly acting as if I opened a new door to responding in a different way, acting in a different way, behaving in a different way. And so if I were, and this is a question you can ask yourself now, if I were already at my desired result, like whatever it is that you're trying to create and manifest, your future that you're working towards, what would I have been doing? Who would I have to become in order to get that result? What would I have to embody to be in alignment with this new reality? So, for example, if you want to travel internationally, that's like part of your future where you want to travel around the world, obviously once we're free from COVID, make sure that part of your acting as if it's like prepare, get your passport, start creating itineraries for your trips, read up on places that you want to visit. The idea here is to act as if in advance, starting behaving like, thinking like, being like the person you want to become now. So whatever your dream is, come up with a list of things that you would do if you were already there. So after you have achieved that thing that you want, what would you do? And then actively try to do one of those free things, because usually these are like, it's not about spending money. It's like these are free things every single day, if not multiple times a day. So I'm going to say that again. So after you have achieved that thing that you want, so imagine yourself, you're done, you've gotten it, you've created it. What would you do? Like, what would be the behaviors of somebody who is in that completed state? And then actively try to do one of those things every single day. This is where I literally, I'm like, get out your journal and seriously make a real list. Start behaving and acting as if as often as possible. So now the second approach to this aligned action is, okay, what is my consistent, so we talked about daily practices, what is my consistent manifestation spiritual practice? So we just talked about more of the external practical things, but what does it look like to do the subconscious sort of internal work consistently? Beyond sort of those tangible everyday little things, what is the spiritual priming? What is the subconscious piece of this? And this is what I love to talk about and teach on. And for me, this is the daily visualization or meditation practice. So this is what I taught in the 8-day manifestation meditation challenge. So for 3 to 20 minutes of your meditation practice, this is where I encourage my clients to practice visualizing their future reality and feeling into their future with an elevated emotion like joy, gratitude, love, like feeling in advance. So I talked a little bit more about this in the Manifestation 101 first episode of this month's series. But this part is so important as a daily spiritual practice. We want to actually see in our minds our future. So often we are playing out stories and narratives of imagery of our past, and that's why we end up just like creating the same results over and over again. That becomes our blueprint. We're just going, okay, here's what I've always done. Here's what's always happened. And then we just are on the hamster wheel and we just create it over and over again. What we are seeing in our mind is our roadmap for the future. Like that is what is laying down the blueprint for our subconscious to enact and follow. And so in order to live into something new, a new life, a new way of being, a new reality, we're going to have to create a new picture in our minds ahead of time and practice. This is key. Practice the feeling of how we would feel in the future. It's like intentional, active daydreaming. So for example, if I want to, let's say, make 6 figures, okay? And right now, the only experience that I've had in my past and in my present is that I've made like, let's say $30,000 a year. So if I want to get to the place where I'm making $100K a year, I'm going to have to envision a new future. I'm going to have to be willing, even though I've never done it, even though I've never created it, even though I have no clue how it's going to shake out and happen, I want to create the visual in my mind ahead of time. I want to be able to see in my future that I am this 6-figure woman. What do I look like? How am I dressing? What's different about my life when I'm doing that? What is easier? I want to envision myself like planning for vacation, taking time off, getting to spend more time with my family and my friends. I want to envision depositing money in my bank account from new clients or new products that I'm selling. I want to envision what it feels like to have that money in savings. I want to visualize what it feels like to have that stress gone in my life. I want to feel how I would feel in that future state right now. I want to practice feeling ease around money. I want to practice feeling abundant. I want to practice feeling grateful. I can practice all that right now. So all of this is like going ahead of our reality, our present moment, and we are laying the grid, the emotional, mental, subconscious grid in our minds ahead of time. And so when we look at these internal, sort of more spiritual practices of visualizing, meditating, feeling ahead of ourselves, that gets the ball rolling down. That gets the wheels in motion. That is signaling to our subconscious, okay, here's where we're headed, here's where we're going. And there's so much research about the power of visualization. Like, again, I talk about this more in the first episode, but bringing it sort of first full circle, it's like, okay, this is a proven scientific fact that this is how our brains work. We see the picture in our minds and then we create it in real life. So we're going to have to reference the future, y'all. Reference our future to create our future. We cannot keep referencing our past or even our present. We've got to see things that we've never done. We've got to believe that it is possible. And that is going to, again, if we go back to the bear, that's going to create an emotional response, seeing it, believing that it's possible. We're going to take new aligned action and we're going to get a new result. So both of the daily practices that we talked about, watching our language, kind of eliminating some of those words out of our vocabulary, affirming our new identity and reality, using those daily affirmations, acting as if, doing the behavioral things even before we're even there. If I want to be a, badass businesswoman, how does she start her day? What does she do? Where is she going? Who is she meeting? Oh, I can do that now. And then we go into the more spiritual side of things and we practice that daily visualization and feel the emotions of our future. That is aligned action. It's taking an active role in creating our future. So if we go, okay, well, what's next? That's the what's next. And it's about doing these things consistently. You are actively like rewiring old ways of being, thinking, and behaving that you've done over and over and over again. And in the same way, you're going to be visualizing, acting as if over and over and over again. You're going to be feeling into your future every single day. And the more that you can be in that futured state now, the less friction you're going to have, the less resistance you're going to have. This is a daily spiritual practice. Manifestation is a daily habit. And so one of my clients, she asked me the other day, she said, so how often do you manifest? Like, how often are you manifesting? And I said, daily, like emphatically daily, like moment by moment, as often as I can. And that's the magic. Consistent, aligned action. And it's a beautiful thing to start seeing these things come to fruition and start seeing these things being manifested in your life. And I hope that you're going to give this a try, because this is the part that we have control over. That's the part that is in the realm of our responsibility. I mean, we know there is so much that we don't control. There is so much that's happening that we have no say over. But what we do have, if we go back to bear, we do have say over how we interpret something, the meaning that we give it, that belief, the thought that we think about that thing. That's where we enter into our responsibility and our control. How we feel about that, what we act on from that feeling. And then we let go. We hold loosely. We open up. We surrender. This is the part where we hand it off to our co-creator so that source can go to work, trusting that all good things are flowing to me, trusting that everything is being orchestrated behind the scenes on my behalf, trusting that it's rigged in my favor. And this is that partnership, that intimacy piece that comes in that we talked about in the first episode. This consistent aligned action is what gets us into the flow. And then we get to practice our receiving of the goodness that is available to us all the time. So I want to leave you with this question. Who would you have to be in order to be your future self? What would you have to do in order to be your future self? What would you have to believe in order to be your future self? And how can you do that today? All right, y'all. I hope that was a helpful, practical episode. And of course, share it with everybody. This is a conversation that if we realize the control that we have over creating the life that we want, oh my God, so amazing. So share it with a girlfriend, share it on social media. But I will be with you guys next week for a brand new month and a brand new topic. I will announce it next week. So stay tuned. But until then, remember that the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. All right. I'll talk with y'all next week. Bye. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you got some amazing nuggets to take home and start implementing into your life. And if you're looking for the show notes and links, head on over to maryhyatt.com/show. And if you loved it, why not bring your girlfriends along this journey of becoming fully alive with you? Just give a quick share of this episode to your social channels and enjoy those debriefing convos with your besties. Thanks again, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.